Okay. How is everybody doing? We can give it a couple of minutes and then maybe we can start.
Good, good.
What do you think about the price action?
It feels like it's right on course.
Yeah. I'm a little bit worried about the liquidity situation, but we
That
can
is
take a
true.
look in a moment. Because, I mean, we don't have necessarily to do always exactly the same, but it does make sense to have liquidity, to support the market. And right now it's lacking. And in fact, it's a pity because it was going exactly the same direction, right? The price was actually going a little bit down. I know it feels good when the price goes up, when we're trying to load my screen, but it is the usual thing. Being a little bit slow. Don't know why. You know what? I'm going to disconnect and then coming back. Just a second.
How do I put this on speaker now?
You put what on speaker? Your phone?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Everybody can talk. Right? It's an open meeting, so if you want to say anything, just make sure you don't have like a background noise or something. Otherwise, then turn off yourself. I don't know. It's kind of slow. I don't know why it's doing this. I like Discord, but sometimes it gives you trouble like this one. So we can discuss it. So yeah, and you can look at. In fact, I can even do a printout of a. But it doesn't allow me to print out if I let me print out the screen. I'm going to. And by the way, I saw some post from, but we can discuss it later. So yeah, because I saw this post from Fred. He was all happy that the Bitcoin power law not Bitcoin power, the Casper power law is breaking down badly.
It's not breaking.
It looks like it's breaking.
I
Well, we
mean,
can look it up.
did the Bitcoin price went down to minus 60% deviation in the past many times, right? So
What are you? Because I'm looking at your chart and it looks like we are below whatever support line you drew.
yeah,
What
that's
is it?
probably the minus 50%.
Minus 50%. So right now it's 60.
Yeah, so
We can talk about
I
Casper. Let's first talk about everything else, and then we can talk about
yeah.
Casper first.
I'm currently on my phone in bed, but
Yeah,
I just wanted to listen mostly. But
coming from work. Okay, let's look at the liquidity. I don't know why I have troubles in uploading my chart. Sometime let me give it one more time, one more chance.
but yeah, it's funny that Fred was happy about it.
He
I think it's
hates
funny.
He hates Casper. So
He's a maxi. It's okay. It.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. But I just think it's funny because
it is funny.
Yeah.
I actually was surprised that he's following that. Maybe somebody
yeah,
probably
maybe that's a good
somebody
thing.
sent him something. I don't think he follows,
Yeah.
but probably somebody sent him something and he needed to do
Be-
a post
yeah,
about
because
it. To me, actually, to be honest, I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, I like the people that like Casper because I'm not against them at all. If it is something that can help us to make more money, why not? Um,
Mhm.
and it's still supposed, to be. I don't like when people say when they go all the way too far and they say, "Oh, it's going to substitute Bitcoin instead of that." Is too much, right? When people say things like that,
Yeah, it's too
they
much.
are
Yeah.
they are going too much away from, first of all, reality, and second, there is no point to think about like an alternative coin that is going to substitute Bitcoin. It's not just a reality thing. It's also, I don't think it will be good for the ecosystem. Now, you could have something that is like silver, right? Because of from the first time, people always propose, say, "Oh, Bitcoin is like gold, and this other coin is like silver." For some time, Litecoin was supposed to be like that,
Yeah.
and then Ethereum. Ethereum is a completely different thing in terms of what it does, etc. So I don't know if one could compare it with Bitcoin directly, but Casper you can. Um, so I would not, I don't mind that idea, but when people say, "Oh, it's going to be beating Bitcoin and things like that," I think it's silly. But
Bitcoin will always be number one in my opinion.
yeah,
So,
yeah. So
I'm not really like that.
So I'm not against it. And in fact, I was in the beginning, I was a little bit concerned because my entire idea was, oh, there is only Bitcoin as a power law. And then I don't have done yet a very deep dive in Caspa where I understand everything and why it works. But when
Yeah.
people try to tell me, it's kind of a baby Bitcoin, blah blah blah, all the things, So from a superficial level, it actually was interesting because when we can compare it, right, we can see when the things are common, the things are different. So it's another case of a power law in a cryptocurrency that if it continues, and it's not broken, it actually gives us a lot of insights, So it helps us.
Yeah.
But, if it breaks, when we can say this is how it will look like if it breaks with Bitcoin. So we have a case that we can compare it. Right now, it doesn't look very good at the chart, but let's go back to
Yeah. I mean,
Kaspa in a
yeah.
moment.
Oh, yeah. Let's go back. Yeah. Sure. I
Let's
wanted
first
to
look.
say really quick
Yeah, sure.
is that I post not a long time ago. I posted it was made by someone else, but I posted a chart about the Caspa hash rate still following a power law closely.
Right. I
Like,
was very
with,
impressed by that, and is exactly the same power law like the square, and it makes sense because I actually gave arguments about why it should be a power law and with that particular power, and I was so surprised because when you go, the other power laws are not the same. Like the general power law is not the same as Bitcoin. The
yeah.
address is not, but then the hash rate it is, and this is the one that I derived from first principle. I say, okay, if there is this relationship, it should work out in this way. I gave arguments for that, and so I was really happy. And then
Yeah.
this other case follow exactly Bitcoin power law in terms of hash rate and price. So that meant probably that my argument is correct. But yeah, so these are all interesting things. But yeah, let's focus a little bit on this liquidity thing, and then
Yeah.
we can go back on Casper if people are interested. And by the way, this is an open discussion, so if everybody wants to say something or comment, you guys can. But I don't know why I cannot load my chart. Maybe I need to reload Discord or whatever. My internet connection is very good, but sometimes Discord is buggy.
So is
But
your chart
okay,
not loading, or is your Discord not allowing you to share your screen? Like,
right, that is what I meant. My chart is
ah,
working on my computer, but when I say share your screen, unless can somebody else try, and then we can look at. I'm looking at the liquidity model. So if anybody wants to load the
saving
liquidity
face,
model,
you have it?
Let me see. I might have to set it up. But we also could try if you want to. Not saying we have to, but we could try a Discord call, but a stream on YouTube, and then it would be recorded on your channel as well. But that's
yeah,
up to you.
yeah, we can do that another time. But
Yeah. Go
right
ahead and
now,
keep talking, and I'll
I
try to
want
set
you
it up.
just to keep it between us because
Oh, sure.
sometimes it's really stressing to go on YouTube with more people. And today I already had an interview, so I wanted to keep it more relaxed and between us and trying to alternate doing things on YouTube and doing it here between us.
I got you.
It's more relaxed this way. But I posted that one thing we can do is this. I just posted, if you look at the chat, right, and everybody knows how to open the chat, you just click on the little bubble there where it says voice channel, and then you can see the chart, and they posted a graph, and plus you can open the chart in your own trading view, so you know what I'm talking about. But as a reference, I put the chart there, and you can click on the chart and make it bigger, right? You can look at it and make it bigger. But you see, this is how it looks like right now, right? And so I was very happy about this pattern that we had for some time, where the price was going down, the liquidity was going up, and they were supposed to meet somewhere. And that somewhere was around November, around mid of November. And now they're doing exactly the opposite. You see how we are going, the price is going up, and the liquidity is going down, so we are, and you see in the oscillator, it looks like the Y line that is supposed to cross, right, is supposed to go below that green line. Then when that happens, it's going to switch. It's going to switch to green. This shaded area is going to switch to green. And the reason why I say, yeah, go ahead.
Giovanni, I remember you saying you were gonna look at why the purple line, the global liquidity, is going down this much. Have you?
Yeah, I did a little bit, and I plotted. In fact, at a point we can look at that, and I plotted all these things independently, all the different contributors.
Yeah.
And they all seem to go down for some reason. But actually, I can even make an indicator out of it, or maybe we can discuss it. But in particular, the US ones that are probably the one that count most because they have more money in it. But also China was going down, almost all of them were going down. And so I was kind of concerned a little bit, right? Because, and so I made also this one. It was this silly thing that somebody was posting that was actually if you shift M2 by a certain number of weeks, it looks like the price itself. And I think it's probably a rise tricking us and telling us that is the case. But if you're interested, this is also a graph that I made somewhere. So in this case, I didn't use all the different, because I have M2 in my indicator. I have M2, I have the banks, I have like 10, 15 different components to describe the liquidity, and not just M2. M2, you know what it is, right? It's basically cash.
Money supply.
Yeah, the money supply. And this is M2 for different countries altogether. We can break it down. I can show you how it looks like if we break it down. Here, what I did, I shifted actually, where I superimpose it with price, but it's basically the M2 shifted by 10 weeks. So what is 10 weeks? About a little bit more than 2 months. And this guy was claiming, but you see that doesn't work all the time, right? Because if you go out of it a little bit, then it doesn't correlate. But he was saying, oh, it looks like correlated if you shift it by this amount. So maybe when we can predict what is going next with the price, if it follows M2. But it's one of these things where, you could take the, number of vinyl records that are sold in California and correlated with the number of divorces in New Jersey. There are times where the data looks a little bit more correlative, and you can try to start to say, oh, this peak is like this peak, but your eyes will confuse you, where it looks much, like you will find easily things that do connect, kind of disregard the ones that don't. So I don't know what you guys think that it looks correlated, price and.
No, I mean, first it doesn't look correlated, and then it looks correlated for a while. But you could maybe look at historical data. You could look at like the the bull year of Bitcoin and see if it is really correlated to this orange line.
Yeah.
Have
But
you
only
looked
the
at it?
line is shifted, right? Like it's shifted by. I mean, the correlation is there in general, even with the liquidity, but it's messy. It's not a
Yeah.
one-to-one correlation, right? I can show you different graphs where um, it looks like fuzzy. So if you look like it's not like a nice clean correlation between the two. It's much more complicated. It needs to be studied.
Around that
I
time,
studied. Yeah,
around that time,
yeah,
that was around the ETFs, right? When you're pointing out that it wasn't correlated, that
right.
was like the hype before the ETFs, and
Yeah,
then where the two lines meet, I believe that was right at the ETFs. So maybe there was some type of parabolic, too much money coming into Bitcoin to stay correlated almost. I don't know. I'm just kind of guessing.
yeah. And I mean, now you can look at all these things. The problem is this, right? And they see this done all the time by other analysts. You want to go deeper, right? And sometimes you want to go and look at details like these and go. But the problem is by the time you start to add more things like these that are kind of ad hoc, right? Because
Exceptions, yeah.
yeah, you're starting to say, oh, this is what happened here, and this how so you start to make a straight line over another straight line, and you're adding this and you're adding that. By the time you're adding all these other things, it's not that it cannot be done, but you need a lot of data, you will need patterns, you will need things that repeat over and over again. If you start to lose yourself in breaking down everything in small little pieces, you never know that is you adding this interpretation
Mm-hmm.
or if there is something there real, right?
Yeah, trying to
And
make it work.
these are it's a famous thing that happened historically also in science when people were using the geocentric model. I don't know if you know this thing. Um, it's really complicated to describe a solar system. You can do it because it's your in physics we call frame of reference. It's your frame of reference. You can put yourself at the center of it, at the Earth, and then try to describe the sky of the motion of the planet, how it looks like if you are on Earth. And it's a mess because you're going to see this planet. Sometimes you will see like these weird loops, like it's called retrograde motion. Like you will see Mars going forward in its orbit when it comes backwards and it does some weird loops. And the ancient
Yeah.
were going crazy about that because they really believe that the planets were like little jewels and they were like stuck in these spheres made of some kind of crystal, some kind of ethereal material, but like a physical spheres because but you could imagine they were like floating in void, in fact, they thought that void was impossible, that nature didn't like voids and emptiness. And so they thought literally it was like a physical sphere with these little jewels. And so it was really difficult to imagine how a planet could do that. Does it break the sphere? But how does it do? And so they came up with all kind of weird things like they're called epicycles, where they had these circular orbits went around the Earth. When that didn't work very well because they saw all these inconsistencies, because the calculation started to every observation started to be better and better. People were spending days and days and days accumulating all this data and observing the sky, and it makes sense. So they added to add like little circles on top of these circles, and then this little circle, like a planet, will not really go in a circle, but it will go in a. It was like another circle, and the center of that circle moved around this circle, and then that was not enough, so they added another circle. So in the end, they added all this circle on top of other circles called epicycles. And it's considered like an example of how if you have a wrong model and a wrong perspective, you're going to make your description of what you're looking at more and more complicated to fit the data. And it's not the right way to do it. The right way to do it is to find the right model, and then everything becomes simple, right? Because for now you put the sun at the center of the solar system, all of a sudden all these epicycles disappear. You only have this almost perfectly circular orbit. If you really want to be a little bit more precise, you make them like egg-shaped instead. By the way, talking about eggs, I'm going to turn off my eggs. I was avoiding some eggs. Just give me a second. I'm coming back. You can talk
Yep.
between each other. Coming back in 1 second.
So how was your day at work?
Very bad, man. I have a bladder
Infection?
infection or inflamed bladder.
Mm-hmm.
When you pee, it hurts, and but it was that bad that it's starting to affect my back, my lower back.
Mm-hmm.
So I couldn't bend. Reach the floor, like if something fell down
Sure.
and carry items and shit. So basically, on the end of the day, I was like so stiff, and now I'm in bed.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I hope tomorrow is better. It's
You might
gone.
be able
But
to try some cranberry juice, but I'm sure you end up going to the doctor or something like that. But
yeah, everyone is saying that.
yeah,
I'll get some tomorrow, but if in the morning if I feel the same, I'm calling in sick and go to the doctor. Yeah, for sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
It's not normal. I have it.
Do it.
I have it for a week already, but
hmm,
thought was gone.
yeah,
Yeah. It's terrible. It's good that I thought about the eggs because we were going to burn if I didn't turn them off. So anyway, so this is why the power law is so beautiful, and so it's almost like really this revolution with the heliocentric system. That is one of the things that convinced people that there was something true in the heliocentric system because everything became all of a sudden simple. In fact, actually, when Copernicus proposed it, what he said was, "Oh, he actually in the book wrote it's a mathematical trick." And you know why he wrote it? Because he was afraid that the church was going to do something with him. And so he said, "Oh, it's not reality. It's not reality. It's a mathematical trick." But everybody started to realize that it had to be reality because if nature always tries to do the simplest possible thing, but in the beginning, he kind of pretended he was not. But like this is going to simplify calculations. But usually, when that happens, it's because there is some underlying truth. And so this is why the power law is so powerful. I don't know if many people realize that. It's what tell us, look, there is this very precise, very simple way of describing Bitcoin's behavior, and everything can be described relative to it. So this is why I don't want to do too much of ad hoc things. I did this mostly because I was curious and I almost wanted to show that it's not true. Um, I mean, if you really squint your eyes, you can see like, okay, here there was a dip, and in this orange curve, right? Here was another dip, maybe, but I don't know. It doesn't seem. It could be like just our eyes that is tricking us. But it's something that I'm checking, but I don't think it's so fundamental. I mean,
the
I
the
will be
problem
curious.
the problem is when the correlation disappears and you get surprised, right?
Right, exactly. Um, So we will see. We will see if it really holds. Um, Let me see. I check? I put 8. Let's see if I put 10 because I can share this with you. Yeah, if I put 10, it looks a little bit better. I can show you. So 10 weeks because I can shift it back and forth. I did like a little indicator where okay now maybe again. Okay, I'll show you this. Because I mean, if that was a cool case, would be really cool because it's going to be predicted by 10 weeks. This is 10 week. I think the original post say 8 weeks, but then you actually get even a better match with 10 weeks. I'm going to post it in the chat. So this is how 10 weeks looks like. Does it look better in terms of matching? Kind of, right?
It does look better, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, let's see. But so in general, though, if we look at what saving phase is showing us, right, is that the liquidity is going down, the price is going up, and there is a mismatch between the two, right? So and saving phase, do me this favor.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to drive, and I'm going to tell you what to do. So go to every, so show us, and maybe I don't know if you can put a circle or something. Look at every single start of a bull run, and let's see how it look like, right? Something that I already showed, but I want to kind of remind you.
Okay.
So yeah, just put like a little circle around that area that indicates like the start of a bull run to the top, maybe. And let's use as a top of a second top here, because our school of thought, of course, you never have to follow 100% what I'm telling you. Not like a, it's not a cult. Everybody can do whatever. But my interpretation is that the second top was the real top. And then go all the way. Let's use COVID as the start.
Okay.
Just I think it happened a little bit later, but you see how from COVID, this what the situation looked like, right? We had this inversion where before that the white line was above the green line. I mean, sorry, the purple line, and then the COVID happened, it reset everything, and then the other way around, right? Where the purple line went on top of the white line, and so that indicates in our model that we had enough liquidity. That in theory, the purple line, what an interpretation of the purple line is, in fact, can you kind of make it even bigger than that, like going on the right line, right side of things, and kind of
This side?
zoom in? No, this side. No. That was great. I'm just saying, make it larger so we can see. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that is perfect. Yeah, so what is the interpretation of the purple line? The purple line is based on the historical relationship between liquidity, global liquidity, using all these quantity that I use. But it's it's subjective because should I use this? Should I use this other? Then also, what weights should we give? Right? I think that is the biggest limitation that I'm going to fix at a certain point. But even there, which weight are you going to give it? Are you going to do it by GDP? I don't know, right? But right now, it's really the amount of money in circulation in all these. So it's just, in a sense, maybe it's already calculated because the quantity of money will be proportional to the country, right? The importance of the country, and so maybe that is the way to do it. But I simply sum all these quantity, converted them in similar measures, like for example, the dollars, right? And then you get this quantity, and then you look at the relationship between this quantity and the price, and it's complicated. It's a mess. I can show you how it looks like overall. Let me give me a second. Um, okay, it looks like this. I will post it again in the chat. No, it's not a simple power law because I did it in the log graph, and if it was a simple power law, it will look like a straight line. We like straight line because they're simple. So what do you do with something like this, right? What the heck is this? I have no clue. And also what happens, right? You see what happens during the bubble? During the bubble, you have that little fuzziness thing because think about what is going on, right? Follow kind of the dots with your eyes. They kind of form loops. You see how they form like little loops? Sometimes the loop is bigger, and other times I could actually connect the dots so you will see the loop better maybe I can do that next time. But can you see with kind of your eyes what is going on, right? There are these like loops where, like, take a bubble, take any of these bubble, right? When you see that fuzziness means the the relationship between global liquidity that is on the x-axis. Now it would be exactly, you know what it is? Exactly what these guys in the ancient time were looking when we're looking at the planet. The planet will go backwards, but it was an illusion. Do you know why the planet goes backwards? Because imagine you have a orbit, right? Maybe I have a, let me see, because it's actually cool and it's relevant to what we are discussing. Let me see if I can show you a picture, and maybe you can post it on face. It's called, by the way, the name for this is called retrograde motion. And it was one of these things that made people go crazy and they didn't understand what was going on. Yeah, so this is a good picture for that. They couldn't explain it, right? They say, what the heck is going on? What the planet is doing? They will come up with all kind of like these little circles on top of circles, but really the explanation is simple. You see what happens? I just posted. Maybe you can repost it to Saving Face.
Yeah, I'm working on it.
You see what happened? The orbit of the Earth is closer to the sun, right? So if closer you are, faster you're going. The Earth goes faster. It takes about 1 year for the Earth to go around the sun, and it takes, if I remember well, about 2 years for Mars. This is Mars. So imagine the Earth, because imagine you're going to do this like in a, you're like in one of these building where there are many tracks and people run, right? Or cars. So these are different cars. So imagine the Earth is a little bit behind, right? Because as it goes around, it does a full circle, and so it is where it is here in the graph, right? When you're looking at Mars from the Earth, you will see it in that location in the sky, right? The little inset here shows how it look like in the sky as you look at from the Earth. So basically, it will look like the planet is there, right? And then as you move forward, because the planet is in front of you, it will still look like it's moving forward, right? Then when you catch up, because you're moving faster and you're coming parallel, right, relatively to the sun, in the same line, if you could connect the Earth and the sun and Mars and the sun in one single line, this when something weird happens, you will start to see like the planet is going backwards because you're looking, imagine you're looking at a car that you just passed, right? It looks like the car is going backwards. So it's doing this weird loop in the sky. And this, we can move this. Do you understand this picture, everybody?
Yeah. The Earth is moving at a different orbit than Mars and probably a different speed as well. So
Yeah,
as Earth
faster.
is passing Mars, you are basically like you're in a car passing someone in traffic. So they're
Yeah,
in front of you and then they're behind you. But when you know what I mean. But looking at it in the sky, it makes it look like the planet Mars is moving backwards.
yeah. And the same thing, if you look at the graph that I was showing, the relationship between price and global liquidity, it's exactly what you're seeing here during the bubble. Because in that case, there are times, and it's more complicated, of course, right? Because who knows what is happening where the liquidity is going faster, is changing more rapidly than the price is changing, or vice versa. And they make these loops. Like it's really cool, right? It's not just there. You can see there are other places where these loops are happening. But basically, it's the same idea of this retrograde. That one is moving faster than the other, and so it looks like it's making loop around the other quantity. This is how you interpret this craziness going on here. It means we are now very correlated with each other, right? That one is moving faster than the other, and you have this really weird behavior happening, particularly during the bubbles, right? It's really cool and interesting, and maybe one could go deeper and trying to understand why that happens, what is going on. One interpretation is that when we go very high, with the price, the global liquidity doesn't really follow because it's all driven by people looking at Bitcoin price and then pushing the price of Bitcoin up, all based on FOMO. Right? That is one possible interpretation of that. Right? And so the liquidity doesn't follow, it stays where it is. And so you will have this weird behavior happening there. Right? But yeah, it's really cool and interesting. But in general, when you don't see that looping, it means that there is more direct relationship between the two. And so there is so in general, what happened over these 15 years, as the liquidity was growing, the price also went up, but it went up in a very non-linear fashion. And in fact, initially it went up very, very fast, right? Um, in fact, I don't know how to describe it. I don't know which equation is that. It's not a simple equation because if it was exponential, it would look like more like kind of curved up instead of curved down. And then here it seems, after the second bubble, the third bubble, it looked like it started to curve up again. So it's a complicated curve. And so the only way to write a model for that, because there is not a simple equation like a power law, is that you write down a bunch of terms. You start to, because it turns out there is this mathematician that came up with this proof that you can take any complicated curve and you add more and more terms, like all powers, right? They're all powers. So you start with a line. A line is x. Then you add x squared. Then you add x cubed. Then you add x fourth. Then you add x fifth. And every component will have a weight, and you can calculate this weight through a mathematical procedure. But basically, you can approximate anything you want. In theory, we could approximate even these loops, everything. The problem is what I was saying before. As you add more and more term, how you know that you're making something very specific to this particular example instead of catching the general trend, right? In fact, that is what is going to happen, and there is a name for that. It's called overfitting. A lot of people that do algo trading, they have to fight with that because they try to find a pattern between two things, when they are trying to build some kind of trading system on that. But then all what they are doing, they are fitting only the past data. And this is probably what many people mean when they say, oh, the past doesn't predict the future. It doesn't if you are doing it so specific to that particular example where all what you did was to represent what is going on with that specific example. But if you catch some general pattern, like with the power law, that is the beauty. The fact that it didn't change is the overall pattern 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and what makes us confident that it will continue in the future. With something like this, you have to be careful. So I try to, because the only way to do it, and that is the red line that you're seeing, I'm trying to fit something, but without going too much in the details and trying to catch the bubbles, trying to catch everything, because basically I stopped at the fourth power. I did power number 1, power number 2, power number 3, and then I say, let's stop at the fourth. It is kind of arbitrary, but it's a compromise between trying to find a general pattern that follows what you're seeing there and catching this complicated pattern, right? So this is what we're using in our model. And you can see, right, that the bubbles seem to be identified as big deviations from this trend, right? And this is what we see in the chart, right? In our chart, where if you go back to our chart, saving phase, our indicator, you see how every single bubble, if you look at the bubbles, they look red, right? Because they are so, and it's cool that it's mostly the top of the bubble. They look like when the disconnect between because it seems a little bit the purple line follows the bubble, right? A little bit up to a point, and then the price goes higher. the price of Bitcoin goes higher. And that is when there is that disconnect where I think it's all driven by FOMO, right? It's not anymore based on this relationship between price and the power law, price and liquidity. But the opposite happens when before the bubble, right? When we're ready for the bull run, where the model, the purple line is the model, is that weird behavior that we observe right now, right? That is above the price. So that means, given the usual relationship between price and liquidity, the price needs to be overvalued, right? You need to have more liquidity that we use, and the price is undervalued relatively to the liquidity model. And if you go backwards and you look at every single bubble, in fact, you can move that little square or make another square if you want. You see, it's exactly the same thing, right? There is an excess of liquidity there. We have a green area, and then you go to the next bubble. Same thing. There was a lot of liquidity before the bubble started, right? And so it seems almost like, okay, when the bull starts, we have liquidity. When the bull's kind of close to stop, not exactly the top, but it's almost like a warning system that tell us, okay, we are coming closer and closer to a top, right? Because we kind of switch, the liquidity is now there, maybe can continue to go up, but that continuing to go up, it's really a small amount of time. Like how much time it was between the purple line for that particular bubble, for example, from when they kind of separated, like I'm talking about in particular the second top where see when they kind of separate the purple line separate. Oh, you can use that, it's cleaner. What how much distance in time it was between
From where it broke out to where it returned?
from the top, from the top itself, from the top to when there was this separation, when it became red. So the beginning of a red area
Yep.
to the top. No, the other way around. The other way around. Like the beginning of the see, yeah, that yes, that part.
Around 72 days.
Right. So it's cool, right? Because if this continues to be the case, about 2 months early, we start to see these signs that we are kind of close to a top, right? So actually, this is one of the uses of this indicator that we have other indicators that tell us more precisely where the top is, but this is an early warning system that is kind of cool, right? To know in advance, a couple of months in advance, when the bubble is going to happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
When the top is going to happen.
It's
And
basically like, I feel like it's pointing out FOMO. You know what I mean? It's just people,
exactly,
throwing money at it because they think it's going to go up forever.
right. It's a FOMO indicator, right? Um, and it's cool. And it seems consistent, right? Because see, look at this. Every time we had bubbles, we had exactly that situation. But it's kind of a definition of what a bubble is, right? When there is this disconnect between the liquidity and the so in this case we had the two tops. So for both tops, it was always like there was too much FOMO relatively to the liquidity. Then, for the first bubble, the price corrected itself. We went back to the green area. And it's kind of cool, right? Because when the green area appears, they say, oh, okay, now there is enough liquidity, and the price got another push. Yeah, so I think even with this weird relationship between the price and global liquidity, it would be nice if it was a cleaner one and a simpler one, but there is still a lot of interesting information, right? They tell us a lot of interesting things. And I mean, it seems to me that this pattern where the liquidity needs to be available for the bull run to start, because it has been the same thing, right? Only, if you go all the way to the bubble that happened before the halving, so it was one bubble that happened, no, all the way to the left. Yeah, this one here on the left, right? That is the kind of the odd bubble because it happened before the halving. But it's another evidence that the bubbles are not due to supply shocks because there was no supply shocks. The first halving happened later. How do we get this bubble at all? But notice what happened with this bubble. There was no liquidity, right? It was all driven by FOMO. There was no liquidity at all. And so this is almost, like, when the exception that confirms the rule, right? So it looks like almost like, okay, this was the odd bubble. It was not driven, it was not connecting with the halving, it did something else. And it seems that it was all FOMO driven. Now, the other bubbles maybe are driven by other things, like including liquidity, that is somehow they interact with the liquidity cycles in the world. And when there is excess liquidity, some liquidity goes into Bitcoin, right? And it gets multiplied because that is also what the graph that I was showing you before. If you look at almost every other asset, this is another thing that is not discussed. I should make a post out of that. Almost all the other liquidity, all the other assets have almost a linear relationship with liquidity, in the sense that when liquidity goes up, there is a one-to-one increase in price in gold and SP 500, everything. But with Bitcoin, it's multiplied. That is really cool because it means that a little liquidity gives a big effect in terms of how the price changes. And only Bitcoin does that. You can see from the graph that I showed you, it kind of flattens up a little bit, the graph that, I don't know if you still have it. See how it flattens a little bit, right? It's not as steep. It was very, very steep in the beginning, and now it's flattening out. Unless, you interpret that curve going up as maybe an acceleration, we will have to see how it looks like further in the future. But right now it looks like it's kind of almost tapering down. So there is less of an effect. Still a big effect, it's still a multiplier effect, but it's kind of, the liquidity available doesn't create that huge big changes that we were seeing before. It kind of makes sense. So yeah, there is a lot of information in this graph, right? And it's a little bit worrisome, like I say, that the liquidity is doing something different than before, it is going down, but maybe it's just temporary, right? I'm kind of waiting for the elections, because even if elections in general should not affect anything over the long term, over the short term, they can. Right? And so one of the things that market hates is uncertainty. So once the election is over, that uncertainty is gone, and so we will see more clear patterns. Everything will be much more clearer after the election. So I hope the elections are going to be soon over.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I'll be glad when it's done.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm still, this is why we monitor everything, because while I don't want to use the word believe, I still think that these patterns we repeat, and they are such consistent reference for Bitcoin. We also want to be a realist, right? So we want to focus on what happens really instead of imagining and pretending. But the power law still gives a framework, right? Because we can see how everything moves and changes relatively to the power law. But I don't know. I'm still expecting the price. I don't know if there is a price. There is going to be a price correction. And to be honest, I know it doesn't feel good to go back to 60,000 or even lower than that, because some people find it frustrating. It's not necessary, because it could pick up from here and then go up from here. But we do need the liquidity. I mean, I will be really surprised to see this bull run continue and go up without seeing liquidity catching up. And I mean, is that likely? I mean, look at what happened every single time,
Mm-hmm.
right? That almost indicated that the bull run was failing and it was time for a correction. So the reason why we are in this weird place at this particular time, because we should be much lower, we should be much closer to the support line, is this ETF stuff, right? The ETF created all these expectations, but also they created like a big injection of cash, right? So the combination between the injection of cash that was very, very fast within few months, right? Because we had to create the fund, we had to support it, right? So they injected all this cash, people got excited, and they pushed the price. And notice what happened, it kind of almost touched the power law because the power law is the red midline there, and then it corrected itself, right? It wanted to correct itself. So yeah, this is where we are right now. And most people are not looking at this, right? We are so convinced that the bull market started and we're going to go up, etc. But I see this pattern so clearly for every single other bull market. Beside, the first one, it was all FOMO driven, but Bitcoin was few dollars at the time, right? It
Yeah,
was
yeah.
$1 trillion. So where the money comes from, if we want to go to $100,000, right? We need to have a liquidity. So I don't know. Yeah, let's monitor. I want to see some positive signs that this liquidity is going up. It was exciting when it seemed to follow that
Yeah,
line,
right in here, yeah.
but it could be just a temporary correction,
Yeah, and
whatever.
I
Also
was I
because
was kind of talking about that earlier. Somebody else asked about that, and they were asking, what about the liquidity? I was like, "But it totally could. The price could pull back, and this little pump back up could be potentially due to some of this liquidity coming in. Like, not that it's because I have a I have a little bit of a look like liquidity kind of rises all boats kind of thing, but at
Mhm.
the same time, now that it's pulled back some, we could see another pullback in the price. And then maybe liquidity pumps back up. And then, because Bitcoin lags behind the liquidity. Uh, it has in the past. And,
Yeah.
but yeah, hopefully it, maybe it stalls out the price and then the liquidity indicator goes, it pumps back up and everything falls back into place again and we continue like normal. Um, the only thing that I really worry about is like the timing of the whole thing. It's like, yeah, I would like it to go up to, say 200,000. Who knows where it's going to go. But at a certain point, we start to run out of time for the cycle and how much it can move within that time and
Right.
all that kind of stuff. But I don't think we're worried yet because I'm not too worried yet because like most of this cycle happened in the 1 year. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So like this one was early. This one was like, right on the money
Yeah.
run up. So, maybe we do. Maybe we do just chill out and pull back down and then liquidity pumps, but
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. So November is coming. I will say by the middle of November, if we don't see something happening with the liquidity, it's going to be interesting, right? And then meanwhile, we are going to see what the price does, etc. Um, yeah, I mean, we are going to check it on a, you know, basically almost daily level and see. We can calculate the average returns. Remember, I say if we need to go to 200, because I mean, if a price goes up and it continues to go up and the liquidity doesn't follow, it broke this pattern that we observe, but it's not directly related to the power law, right? It's some additional information that we are adding that doesn't have necessarily to do with the power law itself. It will be strange because I like my understanding of Bitcoin to be coherent, and so like okay, I like the idea that okay, there are these liquidity cycles. There is liquidity that pushes the price up during the bubbles, and then there is a disconnect. It's a coherent story, right? But
Mm-hmm.
if a price continues to go up and it does it in a continuous fashion, I will not protest. I will not be mad about it. But we like to understand what happens and why, right? The problem with that is that I feel less confident about when to expect the crash because it looks very unstable. So
Mm-hmm.
while if it was enough liquidity, first of all, we just found out, right? It looks like we have this warning system 2 months ahead that tell us, hey, up to now we had all the liquidity, we could go up, it was cool. We start to miss liquidity. Okay, don't act necessarily today, but we are close, right? What that close means, if it is 10, 15, maybe this is a point where you will want to maybe take some profit, right? So if you don't want to perfectly time the top, when there is this disconnect between liquidity and the price, maybe this is when you start to consider about taking some profit, right? Without waiting perfectly for the top. And you can let it run because if you have another, usually what happens, see how fast it goes in that 2 months, it really the pace picks up, right? And so maybe you let it go for another couple of months and then, you sell the rest maybe gradually, right? If it is what you want to do, right? To this riding, what we call riding the waves. Um, but if there is no liquidity, we do not have a warning system. And at the same time, I will be concerned that almost every day there is a chance that these things crashes, right? It doesn't give
Mm-hmm.
me the confidence that we're going to follow the same pattern that we did last time. And so, what are you doing to color code all these nice little dots? What are you doing on the screen?
This is what I was talking about before. This is the line color based on the Bitcoin clock.
Oh, cool.
So
And you are
I'm
moving it. You made some modification to move it to the line,
well,
to the
I
price.
just made my own indicator that divided the 4 years up into 12.
Okay,
Like
cool.
based on your clock, so we
Yeah,
could you know how we talk about 9 o'clock being like the full bull, and
right.
basically I'm just highlighting the 9 o'clock time zone of like
Yeah.
what it's.
Oh, wow.
You see what I mean?
Yeah. And can you share that code with me
Yeah,
on a
yeah.
cell
I
phone?
put it in the, but I'll share. I'll send it to you, so you don't
Yeah,
have to look for it. But
yeah. And you share it with the group.
yep, yep.
Everybody can make that modification.
Hmm.
It's really cool. I love it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
We can make and so basically it's 1 hour. Every color is one single hour. So we
yes,
could make it in one single hour and make
yep.
it like more gradual or whatever.
Yeah, you can change it like so if you wanted to do it by year, it would be like 0 to 3 would be that one
Okay,
year,
cool,
and
cool,
then
cool, cool.
3 to 6 would be the next year, and
Yeah,
well, for some reason mine says 0, but 9 to 0 would be the last year of the bull run.
very cool. It looks
Yeah, I was
really
just doing
cool.
it to highlight like time,
Where is 9 in the other cycle?
nine. Oh, this cycle is right up
Yeah,
here. You can see how early it really does.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we the interpretation of that, right? Because really the top was the second top, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not the first one, and and it was early because I think is COVID. It was due to COVID. COVID created this. There was a lot of cash around. People were sitting at home, um, doing nothing. So do you remember that many people joined all these trading classes, and they wanted to trade, they wanted to invest, so they jumped in this,
They had
among the
more
other
time to
things.
pay
So
attention.
yeah, and plus money, because there were
Yep.
all these
Stimulus. Yeah.
stimulus checks, so people had some extra cash that could use for these kind of things, and the price of Bitcoin was pushed up, right? And but again, it's one of these exceptions that makes the rule even stronger. Now, of course, with only three examples, it's difficult to come up with rules. But in general, it seems to fit, right? It seems to, this division in terms of hours, etc., makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the liquidity is an issue. I will say until we see these indicators are cool. I'm sorry. We have some nice looking indicators.
Yeah, this is a nice one.
Mhm. I like this one. But anyway, so yeah, exactly, right. So we will have to see and what is going to happen. But I'm a little concerned about the lack of liquidity, because it does make sense that we need to have a right liquidity to support the bull run.
Mm-hmm.
The risk of it is that there is a lot of FOMO. People push the price up because there's all this expectation. Let's see what happens with the um, elections. But then liquidity is missing, and then at any moment the entire thing can crash, and maybe interfere with the real bull run, or maybe we'll create a reset, right? We'll create a reset, and then we do have the real bull run going on anyway. So it's interesting. I don't think we had a situation like that. Let's go and look at every single previous bull run. Did we have a situation where the only thing I will say is, like the previous bull run, you see how before COVID we were kind of in a similar situation where it was red, right? But it was, first of all, it was early on. Which month was that?
Around May, it looks like, when it kind of broke out,
Right, and
and
then
then
COVID happened.
corrected in the next year. Well, no, same year. Well, no, in 2019 it was around May, and it corrected in 2020 around March.
Okay, yeah, so it happened much early, right? It was like a kind of, well, we still need to understand. I would like to understand what happened that pushed the price above the power law. At a certain point, we need to go back and see if there was any particular event that we can kind of attribute. Maybe there was not. Sometimes these things happen just because of the dynamics of other things that we are not aware.
Yeah,
Um,
I think I remember. I don't exactly remember what the gentleman was saying, but I heard somebody talk about this time zone, and that something economically did happen. But I don't know if it was related to the U.S. or something like that. I'll have to go back and ask like Chat
yeah,
GPT or
we
something
should.
like that.
Yeah, we should check. But um, something happened that pushed the price above the power law, and then there was a correction, right? And in fact, it took all the way to COVID to reset everything, and notice how it went back to the support line, right? And so everything was reset by COVID, and then it went up from there, right? Um,
That
but
was the last rate cut as well, when they took rates to zero. It was right there.
right, right. And let's go to the previous bull run and see if there is anything similar to this. I think it was not, right? Uh,
Maybe. I mean, if you want to
yeah,
count that, but
yeah, not much. But and then go back even further. And again, right, nothing like that. So it looks like we always needed, and it's kind of interesting because even this one, right, it doesn't look like we had the two tops, but we did, right, in a sense. Um, and, and I'm surprised here that actually didn't. Can you zoom in? Can you make it a little bit bigger? Do we see any green at all in that space? No, right?
There's a
Uh,
small little bit right in here.
yeah, just a little bit. But it was enough, right, where the initial liquidity, also because it was a smaller market cap, so
Yep.
it actually makes
Yep.
sense that a little bit of liquidity made the price go a long way, right, in terms of deviations from the trend. There was an excess liquidity. The price got pushed by FOMO and excitement, but it was much smaller market cap, right? And kind of makes sense that we didn't need all the other liquidity. And then we got to the next bubble, right, on the right. Well, that one was not even associated with the halving. So, okay, this one, right, you see only the tip top, right, was disconnected with the liquidity. Everything else was supported by a presence of liquidity. Almost all the way to the top, but then the exact top, not exactly, right? So the exact top, the two things got disconnected. And then if you go to the next one, right, to the right, same thing, right? We did have a liquidity. We had a first stop. It did correct. We got a little bit more liquidity in, and then again, a second top. And then, finally the price went down. So it looks like a very consistent pattern, and it also makes sense logically. So I will be very surprised if the same thing doesn't happen to the next bull run, you know. And so I don't know.
We could have, like another double top cycle, like we could maybe break out a little bit and then pull back, and liquidity starts to rise, and then we meet in the middle, and then
Yeah.
potentially
I
down
mean,
at
if I had to decide, I would like a reset without having a catastrophe like a
sure.
COVID or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
But I think if it feels more healthy, if there is a correction both in price and then a jump in liquidity, and they meet somewhere,
Yeah.
you have a couple of months where the liquidity is good, and then we start the bull market. But we will see whatever Bitcoin does. Right now, you know, it's a little bit weird. It looks like a little different. That is really, yeah, when people say, oh, it's different from before, etc. It's a little bit different in this way that we went, not that we went away from the power law, we did it before, but previously this was always associated with some kind of reset, and then, the right liquidity came in. And we were kind of in that path. I was really happy because it seemed that was a pattern to follow. Not happy because, it confirms that our ideas are correct, but also because I thought it was the right thing for Bitcoin, to have a little bit of reset with the price. Because it's almost like a spring, right? If you bring the price down, when people push it higher, when the right time comes, but also the liquidity was climbing. I don't think there is anything to worry. It's mostly like some kind of temporary decrease in liquidity. But also, you have to understand there are a lot of uncertainties, in the world right now. Maybe some of these liquidities moving to things like gold. We could analyze that. Like another graph that I want to do is actually a graph between liquidity, sorry, price and gold, how they are related with each other. It's not just describing the price of Bitcoin, because you can always do that, right? Can you open a chart where we can plot? In fact, you know what? Even in this chart, I see how it looks like. I can change the currency, and don't do it in USD anymore. Do it. You don't have. I don't think you need to go there. I think you can do it directly from the chart. I think. You see how on the right, if you go all the way on the right, and there is that scale number, and you go all the way on the top, there is like a little. Yeah, you see how it says the currency. Change it to. See if you can do it with gold. Is there gold as an option? It just let's see.
Is there a
Can
certain
you?
button that I need to click on? I'm not.
Yeah. So in mine, for example, if I go all the way to the right
Mm-hmm.
and you click that USD, right? You see how on top of the right corner, just before the underneath the camera. Let me see if I say
I don't think I have that on my chart.
I see it. I see it in your chart. I'm just not sure that you can do gold because it's not a real currency. We have all the
Is
other
it an
currencies.
icon? Hey, take a
You see
snapshot.
how?
Take a snapshot of it and
Yeah,
post it, and then I'll click on it.
but I don't think there is gold, so it doesn't work. Or maybe we the rifle is, but we can make it. We can make our own indicator like that. Here, you see how in the right corner.
Oh, yeah. I don't have that in mine.
You don't have it?
Uh-uh.
Weird.
You definitely have some different stuff on yours than I do.
Huh.
Like
And they are using the app, right?
yeah. Well, the even you know how like you can add data to your indicators and stuff
Yeah.
like like I've never seen that. I've only seen that on your stuff.
Huh.
So I don't know if it's a tier, a certain tier that you're in.
It could be. It could be because I have a highest tier.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't have the highest one.
nice. Anyway, I don't know. Do I have a? Let me see if I have a chart where I have Bitcoin in gold. I mean, you can always do it, right?
It's like Bitcoin divided by gold, right?
Right.
That's how you would do it.
Well, yeah, and then you can make a model, right? Because we can look if but there's going to be some kind of a power law between the two, because we know already that it is a power law between gold and the price. Um, but let's see if I can make. I made it. I think one time I made it called.
Oh, that's not the right thing.
Yeah, BTC gold ratio. Yeah, it here.
Okay, I'll copy it and put it on the chart.
I can actually. I can see that the thing that is frustrating when I try to get the code. I cannot get the code in my. I don't know why. Sometimes it shows and sometimes it doesn't show the code in the. It does it in the web browser, but it doesn't in the app.
Mm.
Um, I don't know if right now it looks like, and maybe you should. Let me. Ah, okay, but I will copy here. Do you have something similar to that?
Sorry, I was copying and pasting the code to you. I was doing something
Oh, you
else.
wrote the code?
No,
Okay.
I was just giving you the code for the bars, the colored
Okay.
bars. Oh, dang it.
Yeah, this is how the ratio looks like.
I will pull it up.
And we can compare it with Bitcoin itself. So the ratio is going down, right? It looks like roughly, but we can make this better. Maybe even make an indicator out of. Oh, this is SP 500. It's no gold, I think.
That's a little
Okay.
blurry on my side.
Let me see if I can
Oh,
find gold.
yeah. I don't know if I can. Yeah, that's S&P 500. Yeah, I think. Let me delete this, and then if I hit the plus button and new pane. I don't know if that's actually.
Yeah, I don't have a gold one. Yeah, we could make it and check. We can also. Can you plot a chart of gold,
Yeah. I did.
like even another panel?
Yep. I believe I've got the right thing. I did Bitcoin divided by gold, but maybe
Okay, good.
I,
This is divided by gold,
well, I thought it was, but it looks like I
or gold
did.
divided by.
You can do BTC USD. You type BTC USD divided by XAU. And then enter. That's how I do it at least. But where is it?
I didn't do it on a new pane. Just a second. There we go.
Yeah. So this should be it.
Is this our second one? This
Yeah,
one,
this
middle
purple.
one.
Yep.
Okay. And where did you do that? And in the index, like when you call the.
Up here, instead of clicking on like the ticker name that we're
Uh-huh.
normally looking at, I clicked the plus button, and then right beside it, and then add symbol. And when you do that, you can
Say
I forgot
BTC over
BTC
XA.
USD divided by XAU.
Okay. Oh, cool. Yeah, I see it. Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, it's looking like this because gold's running right now. That's
Yeah.
yeah.
So
I could probably add the. Well, it wouldn't look right because of the scale is different. But I could do.
now you
something
can
like
do
this.
it like two scales, so
Yeah.
we can superimpose.
And let me make this a little cleaner. Oh, well, I want the power law. I just don't want the liquidity.
Remind me how you do when you have two different scales.
If you have it in two different panels, you can click.
No, if you have the same panel, right?
Um,
You put it in the same panel, but you want to have two different scales, so you can superimpose it on each other.
it should
I think it works.
automatically go to two different scales. But
No,
if
it doesn't. It doesn't, right? Automatically it doesn't. Like you need to ask to do it, right? In fact, try to do it. Try to put it in one scale, in one graph.
and if I normally how I do it to get it undone, I will say this purple line right here, the new scale that or new asset we've been looking at. I click on it and I drag it down to the time to put it in its own panel, and then I just drag it.
No, I want to put it in the same panel, but
Yep.
I want two different scales, so you can actually shift it and move it around.
Okay,
Kind
so
of superimpose it with the price of Bitcoin.
we were almost there. So if it's all on one scale, click on the asset that you want to have it on a different scale. We're going to put it in a new panel, and then we're just going to drag it right back, and it snaps to its own price scale on the left. For me, it does.
Okay.
So
I think there is another way to do it. I think I remember.
There's another way. If you go on the left top corner and you click on the plus button. left top corner.
Yeah.
Oh well, yeah. I think he already had the asset on his chart, though. That's why I was.
Yeah, but I
saying
can
it.
take out. I can take it off.
Sure.
Let me see.
Yeah, he was. I was just saying how to do it if he already had it on his chart. The yeah.
I think it says symbol when you edit. No. Okay. Tell me one more time if you don't have it on your chart.
If you have if it's all on the same chart but different, it's probably down at the bottom. Highlight it and then drag it to the time at the bottom to just put it in its own panel. Then click on it again and drag it back to the chart that you.
Yeah. I think I found. I wanted to learn how to do it the other way. I think the way to do
the original way, if you wanted to add it like straight to have its own scale, it's when you hit the plus button. You will go
same
to
percentage scale,
yes.
new price scale.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, now we got it.
I'll be right back.
Yes. Okay, great. Because now we can superimpose it and see the difference.
All right, I'm back.
Yeah, and it looks yeah, so it's catching gold is moving fast up because it was pumped recently, right? Yeah. But at the same time, I don't see anything dramatic happening recently. So it looks like, I will not say there is all this change in liquidity for gold. So I will not say there is a big, huge pump, in they look very, very similar.
Yeah, they are very close.
Yeah. So I will not say, oh, it's mostly because liquidity, because in general, the curve, yes, it shows the relationship between Bitcoin and liquidity, but if the liquidity was going up and the price was, what will look like if liquidity was going up but the price was not responding, it will still look like there is a lot of liquidity, there is a lot of motion to the left, to the right side, but the price, so it will look like kind of flat. So it will mean the price is not responding, but the liquidity is changing. But it's not what is happening. The liquidity is just going down, and the price following. Well, the price is actually disconnected. The price is going up, and the liquidity is going down. But it's not like the liquidity is moving to something else, right? So this is what I was trying to check, if there was more liquidity. We could also do the same. We could do an indicator. In fact, that would be really cool. We'll try to make a semi-liquid indicator, but now with gold and the same global liquidity, because you know why will be that an interesting measure for us to look at, because it will give us a reference. So are there other? In fact, we could do it one for gold, one we could find. We could find. Yeah, let's make up 3 liquidity indicators. One between gold and the same one that we use for Bitcoin, and then another one for like let's say Nasdaq or SP 500, because that will tell us also how Bitcoin responds differently, right? Does it look similar? Does it look different from these other assets? So that will give us a more complete picture. And what I can do, I can modify the existing one so we don't have to create another one, because every time we create another one, we have to go through all this approval period. But I can make it like an option, like we do. You can have a drop down menu, and then you can choose.
Is
what
it
you
just
want.
as bad on TradingView when you try to update the code? Like, say
When you
you
try
already.
to update, they don't do anything. They don't even check it.
Oh, okay.
They don't check. They don't. From what I understand, they don't check it. They don't check it. But it's kind of incoherent, right? Because it could
Right.
make something completely different. But yeah,
Yeah.
from what I understand, they usually don't check the update. But yeah, this is why I want to make it an update instead of being a completely different code. But then you can select, do you want to do it relatively to Bitcoin, do you want to do it relatively to this? Then you can compare it and see, how the other assets behave.
Yeah. Saves you too from approving everybody for a new indicator.
Right. Also, yeah, that is sometimes a pain in the ass. Yeah. Anyway, guys, hopefully this has been useful
Yeah,
discussion.
it was good.
The Caspa, do you want to say something about Caspa, Sander?
Well,
Do you want to bring up the Caspa chart?
I'm on my phone in bed, but
Yeah.
maybe saving face can do it.
Spray
But you can add either my indicator or Giovanni's, and then yeah. So you see how the 50% is the minus 50% is broken right now. And if you go on the indicator options and you add the minus 60%, just like Bitcoin, maybe it's gonna follow the same pattern where it goes down to
Well,
the
it
minus
doesn't
60.
look like a Bitcoin because usually we go there just after a bubble, and this doesn't look like going there after a bubble. Like if it was like a huge big bubble and then we went down, like see how here in the beginning we did have these huge big bubbles, and then I think we'll have look okay to go all the way down there. Here it seems almost like it's really not, the bubbles. So that is the other thing. It doesn't follow anymore the bubbles. There is no these nice oscillations like we saw before. And
Yeah, but
now,
maybe this is all the short time frame of Caspa. We don't know what like a 4-year Caspa looks like, right?
mhm.
Maybe this is all noise in the longer run.
Yeah, it doesn't look good to be honest, but yeah, because it looks like there is like a general trend that wants to bring it down, 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 and it's kind of concerning. I see a little bit of a recovery. Let me add it 60. Say there is a 60% deviation. Can make
Yeah, in the options you can add or change the 50 to a minus 60. But yeah, we'll have to see if it recovers from here, it would be great. If it breaks down, then it's done, right? power law if it breaks down from here, right?
Yeah,
It
actually,
is.
I get
It's
it more like 65% instead of 60. I get like a little bottom. Um, I mean, also because I know that we are using 60 because that is what Bitcoin has done. But if I look at this pattern, I don't see another breach that is that low beside early on where we
Yeah.
actually went, but then it was a very strong correction almost immediately. I will not call it half yet, but it's a little bit worrisome, right?
Yeah,
Because if it was
that's what I felt as well. I was actually getting concerned, but I still want to see how it plays out. You know,
sure.
I'm not here to exit the market on potential lows of Kaspa.
right,
So
you're still in, you're still involved.
yeah, I'm still in, but I'm a little bit concerned. But when there's fear and blood in the streets, that's when you buy. Usually, I guess
It's one of
it
those
could
things,
be.
man. We'll just have to see. You know.
Yeah, we'll have to see.
Yeah.
I think it could be a very
I mean,
good point to buy. But
at the minimum, it's going to be kind of, we need to go back and study. They spend a lot of time, right? Because I want to see, like, there were some concern because when people told me, I had enough time to find on-chain data for Caspa, but there were
yeah,
some people that did, oh, we tried the addresses and the correlation with the addresses was like 0.65. That is worrisome because with Bitcoin is so stronger than that. And so it could be that is an example where it wanted to be a power law and then it failed, you know, and it
yeah.
was for a little while and then it failed. And it's still interesting because if that was the case, is the case, then it's a kind of a cautionary tale. It's actually, it can be used as a, see, we need to have all these element to actually have a real power law behavior. Maybe the price can be for some time if certain conditions are met, but then if they don't, um, it will not follow power law. So right now, it's a little bit concerning. Let's see what it's going to do. Is it going to recover? Is it going up again? You know, it's going to follow a general trend. It's interesting. You know, sometimes scientists like when things break because it's an opportunity to understand better, you know,
Yeah.
what is going on. But yeah, it's a good, interesting comparison.
I mean, I'm excited to see what's gonna happen. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
I put some money on it. It is what it is.
It's a pity that is also, you know, broke these oscillations because for some time
Mm-hmm.
seem to be clockwise. You know, I mean,
Yeah, but that would be
clockwise.
too good, right? That would
Oh.
be too much of an
Mostly
opportunity to trade
because
it.
see that is what is actually an advantage with these 4 years. I mean, whatever Satoshi did, he did a lot of good choices because 4 years, it's this is why a lot of human events happen at 4 years intervals, right?
Yeah,
Um, maybe it's not by chance because it's it's good and it's long enough where there is enough time to recover, right? Because imagine we have a World Cup every year, you know, it will be too much. It's too much money involved, too many people, and you know, it's such a big event that you know that it's meaningful, right? Of the Olympic Games, right? Um, it's something that people pay attention because it doesn't happen that often. You know, it happens every 4 years. It's quite big amount of time, right? Even more when you're young, right? When it looks like a long period of time. At the same time, it's not too short, right? I mean, sorry,
hmm
it's not too short, so it looks like meaningful because it's every 4 years, and at the same time, it's not too long, right? Where it really happens, you know, like few times in a lifetime, right? And so the 4 years is almost perfect in terms of cadence, right? In terms of human time scales. And here, what was it, right? What is the halving
it's
time?
The halving time is a year, and it has every month it has a little bit more than 5% reduction.
Right. And so
It's a yearly. Yeah.
it's possible these bubbles that we see here, so December, April, these bubbles they seem to happen every 4 months. The bubble that we saw, right? They look periodic, look like every
Yeah,
4 months.
every 120 days. Yeah.
Yeah. And then they kind of disappeared, then it started to do something weird and not following the power law anymore. So yeah,
Yeah.
let's monitor it and see
Around
what
a year ago, I think Marathon Mining started secretly mining Caspa as well. Maybe that has something to deal with it. We'll only find out afterwards. But
It's what is the market cap right now on Caspa?
I actually don't know the current
We can
numbers.
check. We can check. Coin market
But
cap. That's
I
probably
think
the best.
we all know it's still early, so
Well, actually,
2 years is
that
nothing,
is
right? Or, you know.
yeah, but okay, coin. So it's Caspa. Market cap is 3.42 billions, right?
I just had some
So
companies show up, so I'm gonna go ahead and head out.
sure.
Okay, take it easy, guys.
Okay.
I'll
Bye, guys.
I'll
Yeah.
upload the recording in a little bit.
Perfect.
All
Yeah.
right. Have a good day.
Yeah, you too.